Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a special episode of Deliberately Better. I'm joined today by Dr. Ben Buchanan. Welcome, Ben.
Oh, thanks for having me, Damon.
Not a problem. To begin with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do?
So I'm a clinical psychologist and work in private practice and also run a software company called NovoPsych, which is designed for psychologists to track the progress of patients. And so what we know is that when a client goes and sees a psychologist, it can be really difficult to know if progress is being made and if that person is actually receiving the benefit from therapy that they're trying to get. And so NovoPsych is a software platform with a bunch of self-report questionnaires that have been scientifically validated that helps the psychologist determine whether the person is getting better, worse, or staying the same. One way of thinking about it is, when you go to, a doctor and they give you a blood test to check your levels of, iron or whatever, this is the equivalent for a psychologist where they check your levels of perhaps depression, anxiety, stress, or PTSD, or pretty much any psychological construct we can measure.
Okay. How did you come up with the idea for NovoPsych?
I was sitting in a lecture in my doctorate learning about the way psychometric measurement is done, the way we measure people's psychological health. And what the lecturer was teaching us was some extremely rudimentary mathematics, extremely rudimentary capacity for tracking treatment progress over time. So I set about it to be my mission to make it better for psychologists to bring us into the 21st century.
Yeah. Do you have to be a psychologist to use NovoPsych, or can it be anyone who gets it?
It's for professionals in, working in a mental health setting to measure the outcomes of their clients. Having said that, I know that lots of psychologists themselves use the platform to measure their own progress and their own mental health.
Okay, great. And for yourself then, have you ever used it for personal reasons or?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a metrics nut, right? So I love metrics and I love objectively getting feedback about how I'm doing. And so you can get feedback about how you're doing in lots of different ways by, asking colleagues and so on. But one of the ways that I get feedback is once a month, I administer a whole bunch of questionnaires to myself to measure my psychological health. Just because I'm a psychologist doesn't mean that my mental health isn't going to go up and down. I've set up an automated system where I get prompted to answer 21 questions about my mood. Then I'm able to track how I'm doing. And I could show you the results of some of that actually.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So let me get that. So what I'm showing you here is my scores on a questionnaire called the Depression, Anxiety, Stress Scale. So anything above the 90th percentile is a real problem. It shows that my mental health is not good. And so you can see that this particular series, I've been tracking my mental health once a month since the 1st of January 2019, all the way up to the 1st of November 2020. And most of the time, my mental health is pretty good. There was a time in February of 2020 where my mental health was not so good and was almost above that 90th percentile. And then you can drill down and actually see some of the results, and it breaks those into 3 distinct clusters, and they are depression, anxiety, and stress.
Wow.
And so you can see that, depression levels for me are always pretty fine. They're always pretty low. Anxiety goes up and down a bit, but the real problem in my life is stress. You can see that there's been a number of occasions, in June of 2019, in February 2020, and on the 1st of November, where my stress has actually been pretty sky high. And then when I'm reflecting on how I'm doing, I can think, well, what was actually happening during those times? Why was I struggling? And then I can gain insights into the sorts of problems in my life which are causing me to have undue stress.
Yeah. And you can just see at the start of the year, like in January, your mental health was going really well, scores really low. And then all of a sudden, I'm guessing because you were starting to be aware that COVID was becoming a bigger problem and was potentially going to impact your work and other areas of your life, it really spiked up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the great things about having a time series like this is that you can see, well, computers memorize things perfectly, and human beings are terrible at it. And we are really bad at thinking, how was my mental health a year ago? We're just not good at that. Our brain is not set up to remember that accurately.
Yeah.
Whereas a graph like this can show us, how was I during, February last year or whenever. And so this is something that I do for myself, and I know a lot of the psychologists that use NovoPsych also do it.
Yeah. And with the scoring up and the graphs, is that any extra work or is that done automatically?
All done automatically. And so this is what the NovoPsych platform does. It scores it up, graphs it up automatically, compares your scores to clinical or non-clinical normative data. And so you get some really good context for what your scores mean.
Mm-hmm. That's a real benefit I see. We were taught with paper and pencil and having to score it up and then having to create your own graph and then tracking that and then being able to hold on to that piece of paper and not lose that over time. So just having it all there that you can access whenever you want is great. So if anyone wants to find out more, where can they go?
If anyone wants to find out about NovoPsych, particularly psychologists working in mental health, they can go to novopsych.com.au and they can download NovoPsych for free.
All right. Thanks for all your time today, Ben.
No worries, Damon. Take care.
All the best.